Greetings and welcome to my first preview of Fahrenheit 451. This is going to cover through um, about the first few major scenes, all right, through the readings that you're going to be doing for the first night's homework. And I'm going to give you a little background on this book and how it's structured so that you're familiar with what you're looking at, all right? Now, as you know from the preview work we did, this story is going to involve a dystopia and an antihero. All right, Guy Montag is going to be the one who becomes aware. Now, one thing you've got to be aware of that makes the structure in this book a little more challenging is the thing that's going to get him to start asking questions happens very early on. So it's not like your traditional storyline where you see someone go along with what's happening and then they start asking questions and then they start getting answers and then they flip out. All right. The part where he just went along and is just a happy member of his society is actually kind of before the book starts. It's the first couple of pages, maybe, where he talks about how much it's a pleasure to burn. Sounds a little weird. It is. Uh, but he will encounter a woman who is going to wake him up very early on. So when you're looking for evidence of him accepting society, a lot of that has to come from flashbacks, from him thinking back to how he was, through looking at his wife and those who still believe in society. But the change stuff will turn up pretty quickly, okay? So, that being said, this is a dystopia. It's science fiction. It's a twisted version of our own world. And what you will see in this is a world that seems to be based on having fun, just sort of not thinking, engaging in whatever makes us feel good. But it's also got a very violent side to it. And the title, Fahrenheit 451, is the temperature at which paper burns. Okay? So he is a fireman, as you can see in this picture from the movie version that HBO did. There's been a couple movie versions. I would recommend reading before you watch a movie so you don't get confused because they change a bunch of things. But basically, Guy Montag is a fireman, and in his society, the fireman's job is to start fires. Specifically, if you own books, they will come to burn your house down, burn those books, and drag you off to an asylum. All right, so that gives you some idea of what the society is like. They've been taught that books are evil, and as a fireman, it's his job to torch them. So, with that in mind, here's what you'll see in the first few chapters and what you should keep an eye on. All right, we'll see that he's a fireman who loves his job. He loves the smell of smoke and the soot and all that stuff and watching the pages burn. But very quickly, he is going to meet someone who's walking along a street. Her name is Clarice. Pay very careful attention to her. All right? Clarice is this girl of nature. She is a big believer in taking things slow, in noticing details. All of that is the opposite of this society. Montag's wife, Mildred, is the ideal person in this society. She is somewhat shallow. She is entirely focused on herself. She doesn't really notice details. She just sort of blurs through life, and she has one major goal, and that's to get another big television. All right? She wants a wall television. And keep in mind, this book was written in like 1950. There were no televisions like that. There were no color TVs. There were no wall TVs. There's a ton of technology in this book that Ray Bradbury predicts way ahead of its time. Okay? And that to me is part of what makes this book really interesting. So she wants this big television. She wants Montag to do his job and earn the money to get that television. All right? So he lives in this world of burning things and getting more stuff, being very sort of monetary and materialistic. Clarice isn't like that. And what Clarice is going to do is ask some questions and raise some ideas when he first meets her on that walk. Really watch the things, and take note of the things she asks him, what she gets him to do, and what questions she gets him to ask. All right? She's going to get him to slow down. This is one of the major themes that could become an essay. And compare that, how you see her initially walking along in this quiet, with how we meet Mildred. Okay? Mildred, when we first meet her, has had an overdose. She is laying in bed and she is out cold from taking too many pills. Read that scene very carefully and really notice who comes to help out when Montag calls for doctors. Those are not doctors. All right? It is something else entirely. And when he goes outside to make that phone call, there's something else going on in this world in the background, something roaring overhead. Pay attention to that, and maybe you can see some of what these people are distracted from. Okay, so you're going to track what's going on with Mildred and how she reacts when she gets up the next day to having almost died. It's a very strange scene. Okay, look at what she remembers. That's another big issue in this book is memory, what people can remember and what they can't. What does Millie really value? What is important in her life? And then Montag will see Clarice again, and there's going to be more references to nature, more questions that are going to shake up Montag. And that's what you want to track, because that's him changing. That's him as the anti-hero going from accepting to really starting to ask questions. All right? And then you're going to meet another new interesting character, a mechanical hound. This is not Lassie. This is not your pet dog. It has 8 legs, it's made out of metal, and its sole purpose is to inject poison into people and kill them, or at least knock them out so they can be taken off and destroyed somewhere else. All right? Not a happy puppy. Note the description, what it does, and this hound acts as something of a symbol. Parts of him, if you compare the hound with Mildred, you'll see some interesting similarities. All right? And so watch for that. And then back with Clarice, she's going to talk to us about her life and what life's like at school. Keep an eye out on the details. How's that school different from our school? What are they really training people to do? Okay? And that'll bring you through the first chunk of this book, the first little bit for section 1, the first book of the 3 books that make up Fahrenheit. All right? And you'll see our readings are based on those 3 books. The first one, this Hearth and the Salamander. The hearth is your home, your fireplace. And the salamander is the vehicle he drives at work. All right? That's a salamander is also, if you look it up, it has a connection to fire. So this first section is really establishing home and work and how the society operates, and setting up these contrasts between Clarice and Mildred, so that this will build in the next section. All right, so that gives you some ideas of what's going on in this section as you dive into it. Take some good notes, get involved with some of the online discussion area if you have questions or things you want to share. And I'll follow this up with another video to wrap up book 1 shortly here. All right, so enjoy, read it carefully, read it slowly. If you need to read a couple pages a couple times, do that. Take your time. All right, do not be distracted. Good luck.